The movie tie-in game. Many people got into gaming because of a tie-in game. At one point in time, they were inescapable. If you liked a movie or a well-known IP, especially if it was child-adjacent, there was a pretty good chance there was an accompanying tie-in game. Some of them were legitimate classics that defined not only their movies, not only video games, but video games in general. And others were buried in a mass grave in a landfill in New Mexico.
I am actually holding one of the ET cartridges that was pulled out of the landfill.
In the early 2000s, movie games were everywhere, but video games about movies have been around as long as video games themselves, and in the Atari days, they weren't as, let's say, well received. The Atari 2600 had games like Star Wars and other obvious franchises like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People did not like that game. The most notable, or notorious, movie game from this time being the E.T. game, published by Atari in 1982 after only 5 weeks of development and overproduction based off of the popularity of the movie game, left them with tons and tons of leftover copies. While the game initially sold 2.6 million copies, at least 669,000 copies were returned, most of the copies having been bought by grandmothers who knew their grandkids liked the movie. Apparently, a lot of the kids at the time preferred Pitfall.
Giant scorpions and man-eating crocodiles.
Well, Harry and I just grabbed the van, swung through the trees.
About 3.5 million of the 4 million produced were sent back to the company as unsold inventory or customer returns. Between 10 and 20 semi-trailer truckloads of Atari boxes, cartridges, and systems from an Atari storehouse in Texas were crushed and buried at the landfill within the city. In 2014, a documentary was made where they actually went in there and found thousands of buried ET cartridges. One of the excavated cartridges then was put in the Smithsonian. After the video game crash that ET didn't cause, actually, it was just there at the time, but after the Atari came the NES.
The incredible Nintendo Entertainment System, the one to play with Rob, the extraordinary video robot, batteries not included.
Nintendo was frustrated with the large amount of low-quality games that had been on the market, so they limited developers to 5 games a year with the Nintendo seal of approval. This greatly increased quality, and what do you know, the games sold better. Early examples were games like Ghostbusters, which,
with your magic backpack and ghost gun,
still definitely had mixed reception. Jaws, which had some fans it seems. Rambo, Top Gun, RoboCop, Karate Kid, Goonies. Hell, there's a Back to the Future game that looks like this. Yeah, what the fuck, right? The later half of the generation really seemed to kick things up a notch with Batman the video game.
it's here. Batman, the video game.
Based on the 1989 Tim Burton film, this is widely considered one of the best NES movie tie-in games, with a very colorful and faithful look for the time, dark atmosphere, tough difficulty, and excellent music. This game was a real standout at the time. Batman Returns also got a solid game on the NES and then also the SNES, but other games on the NES at the time included Gremlins 2, Friday the 13th, The Addams Family, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's actually funny how many games there were based on R-rated movies at the time, especially since video games couldn't be scary for at least another 10 years. Not every game from this era was great. The flops never reached the lows of the Atari days. A lot can change in just one generation, and after the NES days came the era of 16-bit gaming. Movie games on the SNES and Sega Genesis were definitely very Disney-focused. Toy Story, Aladdin.
At school I found this magic lamp, and I wished for Disney's Aladdin for my Sega Genesis. It's like the movie. I got to battle sword-slashing thieves, and nasty palace guards, and ride a flying carpet. and I still have 2 more wishes.
Jungle Book, Lion King, Pocahontas, games based on Disney movies that are respected and beloved by people to varying degrees to this day. It's crazy to look back and see how much they really wanted children to feel like they could live inside of these movies, like they can truly visit these worlds. Playing a video game based on your favorite movie as a kid can be an incredible and surreal experience. In 1997, GoldenEye was released for the Nintendo 64, and people have been playing multiplayer shooters ever since. Based on the James Bond movie of the same name, this game is to this day one of the most important and influential video games of all time. There was a Blade game. There were games based on the X-Men movies. Actually, right around the time of the PS2 and Xbox generation, it seemed like there weren't many movies without a video game. Excuse me while I rapid fire some of these are. We're going to be here all night. We got Fight Club.
The first rule of Fight Club is, you don't talk about Fight Club.
Reservoir Dogs. Catwoman. The Shrek games. I loved the Incredibles games as a kid, both of them. The Cars game. Pixar had a lot of games that generation. The early Harry Potter games, but those just kept coming. Charlie's Angels, King Kong, based on the Peter Jackson remake. This game was pretty well regarded and was pretty ambitious for the time, as you played as both Jack and Kong. If you just couldn't get enough of playing as Hugh Jackman in the X-Men games, you could get Van Helsing and kill werewolves in video games until your heart's content, you little freak. There was Bad Boys 2, the game, if you wanted to get your Will Smith on. Probably Men in Black games or something. I don't know. The Lizzie McGuire movie, the game. Maybe things were getting out of hand. Among the chaos on PS2 and Xbox, certain games rose to the top. To me personally, the first 2 Spider-Man movie games will always be classics, and while the second game definitely had better swinging and gameplay overall, there was something about the first one that kept bringing me back. It's such a specific vibe from such a specific time.
This is supposed to be the Skulls territory. I'll find Uncle Ben's killer if I have to go through every one of the skulls to do it.
That's the thing about these games that make them so special. They can exist as portals to your childhood. There were 32 movie tie-in games released in 2007. In 2008, there were still around 30. It was at this point in time, it's companies like THQ and Activision would often buy the rights to a movie and rush development to coincide with the film's release. This would affect quality, but the games would often still sell based on the IP alone, leading to a repeating cycle where they just kept, doing it. Harry Potter games, for example, would get worse and worse reviews every time a new game came out, with the Deathly Hallows Part 1 being known as one of the worst video games ever made.
Harry Potter.
With it slightly rallying, going from less than 40 on Metacritic to 42 on Metacritic with the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Tell them!
The B-movie game is hilarious to me, but it's definitely terrible. The Alvin and the Chipmunks games are mind-numbing mini-game shovelware.
Jet around the world and rock out with the Chipmunks. And join the Chipettes for 2 times the fun.
Ice Age games, G-Force, Battleship, the movie, the video game. It had become clear that movie games not only had an oversaturation problem, but a quality problem as well. In the 2010s, video game production was getting more expensive and AAA games were becoming more and more successful. Rising AAA budgets made rushed 12 to 18 month development cycles unsustainable. Quality of the games continued to suffer with the same limited development time. Big publishers, especially THQ, started collapsing under the weight of too many mediocre licenses. Superhero games stopped rushing to tie into movies, thanks to games like the Arkham series, leading to now Spider-Man games are just their original, universe, as opposed to being based on the movies. I didn't even really talk about the Amazing Spider-Man movie games. I played the first one a lot when I was 13. The second one I didn't even get and played it a long time after, and it's really bad as well. Today, movie games are typically limited to Lego games, but we still get the odd movie game to this day. However, it's very clear for a long time now that the era of movie game domination is a thing of the past. Part of me really misses being able to spend several hours just running around my favorite movies, but I understand why they had to die. Old Yeller had gone
rabid and someone had to take them out back. Are there any movie video games that I did not talk about here today that y'all think are worth discussing? Tell me in the comments. Let me know if there are any absolutely terrible ones that I didn't talk about. I'm sure there are. This is Pointless Productions. I'm Garrett Webb. Have a great day.